Stephen is really a consultant who has done a lot of work with the Kennel Club and really has been an access and countryside advisor for them for over 16 years. He lives on Orkney, so we're all very jealous already, aren't we? But travels across the globe to help really people to understand the benefits of dog walking whilst kind of minimising those impacts on things like wildlife and livestock and indeed on other people, as John was saying. So I think Stephen, has had a childhood love of dogs, and that's really been important in really the way that he's developed his working life to do some wonderful things. And for example, he's been really involved in helping people who are planning new housing developments to think about how to design into those developments to make them attractive for animals and create those kind of green spaces. So really building, I think, on what John's just said, there can be no better speaker than Stephen Jenkinson, and please welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let me tell you a story. A long, long time ago in a land far, far away called Bradford in West Yorkshire, where the flat caps and the whippets and the black pudding's made, all that sort of thing. There was a weird kid. Yeah, you're all laughing now, I can tell. And the weird kid, and this didn't do normal boy things. He didn't go and play football and all that sort of stuff. He used to just love going out into the countryside and walking his own dog, or going out to the kennels where his granddad kept his racing greyhounds at that time, and just loved that. And of course you'll have picked up that that is actually me. This isn't a fairy tale. How things have changed, particularly my hair. But if we move on a little bit, it is absolutely true that was my background, because I went to what would have been called a challenging school these days. And by the time I got to 16, I hadn't been drunk, I hadn't smoked, and I hadn't got anybody pregnant. So I was pretty much a weirdo from a very, very early age. But actually, when I look back here, what is true is that there was that inherent love of the countryside and dogs. And it's unbelievable for me to actually be able to work that and share that passion, because there was no such job as an access advisor to the Kennel Club in those days. So how did I actually get there? By quite a tortuous path, really, but maybe it was just destiny. I started out working in the NHS, so looking at things like human health and passionate about that. But I still knew from the very start that being in the outdoors really fired me. So I worked in access and land management and for national parks and all that sort of thing. And it was then I got to realise that it's so often people with dogs that are enjoying these special places. So I went down to the University of Southampton and studied the psychology of people and their pets to get a better understanding. And again, the weird guy who brought all those three things together to be a specialist in people in the outdoors. And as John rightly said, a lot of the time I'm supported and funded by the Kennel Club, which is brilliant, for over 16 years now. But the point I make about some of the other people that I work for, like the RSPB, Natural England and Forestry Commission, that all the work I do isn't just about being nice to the puppy huggers, as much as hugging a puppy is really, really nice, and I'm sure we'll do that maybe later, I don't know. But actually, good management of people and their dogs in the outdoors benefits everybody, and that's a really important theme, as we've just been hearing. So if it's really important about people walking their dogs, why is it important? What are the things that are going on there? Let's just look at some of the facts around here. Around a quarter of all homes across the UK, people have a dog in them, and we know from Natural England figures that about half of all visits to the countryside, people have a dog with them, so it's absolutely huge. We know in England alone there's 1.5 billion dog walks every year, and most of those happen without causing any problems at all. If they did, we'd have doggy-geddon, we'd be trotting in dog poo every single day, we'd have no livestock or whatever, but actually most dog walks are really fine. And the great thing is that people with dogs value their green spaces. People talk about all the threats and dogs can be a problem, but the real threat to the environment and the outside is actually losing those habitats and those green spaces. And if people care about these spaces, like dog walkers do with a passion, that's really good for making sure that politicians don't let all our green spaces get built over. Dog walkers also provide really great informal surveillance of green spaces. We know that if there's pollution or fly tipping or anything like that, dog owners report it, and even the grisly reality that if something really iffy has been found in the park in the morning, it's dog walkers that are there finding that. I do make the point that it isn't the dog walkers that are doing it, it's just that they're out there and finding it, so let's just not make that connection. But I do see as dog walkers actually providing what I like to call our natural health service. Because we've heard of some of these benefits already about dog walking. There's lots of research behind this, but just the headline figures. It motivate people to walk in the outdoors in all weathers. Even where I live in Orkney, where we only have like 6 hours of daylight at the moment, people will be out there in their dogs all the time. As we heard, giving people confidence in the outdoors, a connection with the environment, and people just talking to each other. Wow, how crazy is that? And just making people feel that they want to get up in the morning and walk, and that's not always easy. And remembering that for some people, actually that dog may be the only reason they get up and go out, or the only reason somebody may think it's worth living another day. So let's not underplay the value of having a dog and being out there. We know that people with dogs have better physical and mental health, and also if people are happy and enjoying walking their dogs, the dogs are going to be happier and healthier too. So if we want to keep people walking their dogs in safe and responsible ways, and ways that actually make them want to be more active more often, what is it that dog walkers are looking for? And 20 years ago, we didn't know. But now, thanks to work that was funded by the Kennel Club and Natural England and some other local authorities, we know that. And time again, the things that most dog walkers are looking for is off-lead exercise, close to home and away from traffic. Some people are quite happy to have their dogs on a lead, but most, 85%, are really looking for off-lead access, which is great. And so we know, and if people are enjoying their dog walks, they're likely to do them more often. But there are problems, and I did title this The Problems with Dog Walking, but I think I'll just call this A Day in the Life of a Springer Spaniel, from what I've been hearing, because that seems to be, you've got it all here, and I admire the Spaniel owners, because people do leave poo behind on the path, disturbing wildlife, chasing sheep, and raiding picnics. I have to say I didn't pick a particularly portly Labrador for the picnic thing because I don't want to be breedist about stuff. But you know, the point was made that might sound really funny, seeing a dog running around with a steak or sausages, but that dog running into a barbecue, knocking over a child, could put somebody off dogs for life. And that's really not what we want to do. So whilst we can chuckle about things, we do need to promote all those good things, but minimise the bad things as well. And traditionally, how have we done this? Well, when I've been working in local government, what local government really likes doing is saying no, because we can do it in hundreds of ways of telling people no. Just some examples here from our Rogues Gallery, just signs saying no dogs, from the ones that are illegal but sound good, like dogs not on a lead will be shot. You get the ironic ones, like this one. These lands are poisoned for the protection of animals. Somebody made some real effort to do that and didn't kind of get the irony. They were wanting dogs not to go in there because they thought they'd be poisoned, but maybe they would. But for all the problems we might think of in our parks in and around London or whatever, spare a thought for this authority, where they've got chain-smoking alcoholic dogs on skateboards, which is a real... that one's beyond me, so I don't know how quite we deal with that, but just always think yourself lucky in these things. But saying no doesn't work more seriously, because we want people to do all that great stuff with their dogs. And yet we know that actually if you say no in one place, people with their dogs, majority will just go walk somewhere else. 2/3 are able to drive and go somewhere else. So that's great, isn't it? We've got people doing a really active, healthy activity. And to do that, we're going to make them drive in their cars 2 or 3 times a day to get there and mess up the environment with all the fumes there. But also we know that around maybe 15% of people actually can't drive somewhere else, either because they don't have a car or they've got illnesses like epilepsy where they can't drive. So actually a dog ban in a local park or something is really discriminatory to some of the people that can actually be having a real hard time in society as it is already. And also we know that if councils think that, oh, we've solved our problem with no dogs in our parks, so no dogs off lead, they will be going somewhere, and often it's onto farmland or wildlife areas, and actually it just means that somebody else is having the problem with not dogs, but the point that was made, but irresponsible dog walkers. And also just signs that say no dogs completely fly in the face of people with assistance dogs as well, because irrespective of anything else, people with assistance dogs need not have any mobility impairment. Here's a hearing dog Sable going up the side of Ben Nevis. So again, it's just needing to think about how we do these things. So actually, this might not sound like rocket science, but actually, why not help people do the right thing instead of saying no? And that's what a lot of my work is about. Just manage that demand for dog walking, but help people do the right thing. And that sounds great, but actually, traditionally, councils and policymakers didn't do that. And I don't know what it is, and I just came to the conclusion that just dogs are too scary to talk about. We can sort all sorts of things, we sort out the polar bears and stuff, but actually being nice to dog owners, that's really far too much. So this is actually 16 years ago, and I was getting frustrated by this, where the Kennel Club and I approached the Kennel Club and just said, look, what's happening in terms of helping people have happy, healthy, hassle-free dog walks? What more could we want? And from there, we developed the sort of policy and the work that the Kennel Club does, which absolutely supports the good things about dog ownership, but also is honest that there can be problems, not with the dogs, but with certain people. And it's quite a pragmatic approach because the Kennel Club is quite a broad church, so we have people who just walk their dogs, but there's also landowners and people who shoot and farmers or whatever. So we're quite a pragmatic organisation. And we're not looking for saying, that any restriction on dogs is bad. Sometimes restrictions on dogs are needed, but what we ask is that they're proportionate and evidence-based, so that if you've got a whole beach, you don't ban dogs from the whole of it, you just allow people to be on some bits. But also making the point that restrictions on dogs are actually restrictions on people. Sometimes people say, we've not banned people, we've just banned half the dogs. Well, we know that half the people are coming with their dogs, so let's be honest about this. And it's about making it easy for people to do the right thing. And this is a really good example of that. Here we've got a river in Hampshire, where before the dogs were going in and out of the river at the side and eroding it. And that was meaning that it was making it hard for the fish to spawn, because if you've got lots of silt, they can't get under the rocks and that sort of thing. And also it was disturbing otters and this sort of thing. So the approach then, instead of putting up lots of signs saying dogs will be poisoned or shot or whatever, or lots of fencing, they put in a really good place where the dogs could get in the water really easily and not get muddy when they got in and out. So the dog owners loved to do that. They didn't want to go in the whole river. They just wanted somewhere where they could do it. And that solved the problem by just helping people do the right thing. So actually, a lot of the work that I do with the Kennel Club, and I must say it's part of a team at the Kennel Club as well, but actually a lot of this research has been jointly funded with other partners and just helping local authorities to help them do the right thing as well, which is really important. We support lots of councils. Occasionally when councils don't do the right thing, we'll pursue them quite doggedly, if you excuse the pun, even to the point of judicial review, because it's really important for those people there, and the people particularly who don't have cars, who want to be able to walk their dogs every way, because it's good for the nation. So we'll support dog owners too. As Peter made the point, actually we can deal with all this stuff that's already happening, but actually there's lots we can do to stop problems being caused for farmers or wildlife or other people by just planning for dog ownership. And this is something that wherever you live, when we know that there's probably 300,000 new homes coming up every year, is to actually say, where are people going to walk their dogs? Because that can be built into planning. And this is some work that was done, this planning guidance, the first one in the UK that the Kennel Club was involved with, because we know that banning dogs from new homes doesn't work. So actually what councils are doing now in the good hours places, particularly to the west of London, they're planning on making developers provide dog-friendly spaces so people can have hour-long dog walks, off-lead predominantly, close to where they live. And the developers are funding this, because otherwise if there aren't the green spaces, people will be just causing problems elsewhere. So just for example, this is outside Woking. The developers here bought a 46-acre farm and just made it really brilliant for dog walking, and there's bins and off-lead, and it's just great, and people just want to go there because they like it. In other cases, this is near Petersfield, an existing wood wasn't really good for people walking their dogs because it was near a road, so fencing was provided with accessible gates as well for wheelchair users, again just helping people do the right thing. In other places, to help dogs be, another spaniel there, a really well-trained one, brilliant, providing fenced-in areas so people can train their dogs in the outside, help them do the right thing, and even having signage so that instead of just saying no or dogs must be on lead, being clear where dogs can be off lead and it's not causing a problem. So there's lots of positive things to do because dog owners want to do the right thing. And even here outside Hungerford, there were certain areas where birds were nesting on the ground in spring. So actually, rather than saying dogs on lead all the time, they identified a really good area that dogs could be off lead. And then every month they changed the signs in spring. So March, birds are starting to build their nests, and then going right through to July and say, thank you for having your dog in a lead in a certain area. We've got 200% more skylarks. And dog owners will do the right thing if they're approached in the right way. Just finally, this project in Dorset brings everything really well together. Love Dogs, Love Nature, Dorset Dogs. This is a site where, yes, it's really dog friendly, but it helps people make good choices about walking their dogs in places that are good for them, but also good for wildlife and farm animals. And there's a leaflet that people can pick up. And they're also putting in these dog activity trails where along a mile-long walk, you've got weaves and jumps and tunnels, because often dogs are wandering off and doing other things just because they're not engaged with their owner, where this helps people, again, have their dogs being really active and being fit, but also just builds that human-animal bond, if you like. So why is all this important? Not just for we doggy people, but there's an initiative which brings it to a global scale, if you like, where veterinarians and environmentalists and doctors are working together, because actually it's saying that if we want a healthy planet, we need to make sure that people are healthy, and that's dependent on having a healthy environment. And it's really important as part of that to have animals being healthy. And dog walking just ticks all those boxes if it's managed in the right way. So in essence, in terms of what Dogs for Good are doing, and the Kennel Club is saying, yeah, dogs can be good for good lives and good environments if we reduce the negative impacts, but also promote the really good things about dog ownership. And that's going to give One Health for All by having happy, healthy, hassle-free dog walks. Thank you.